Well, studies show communities across Indiana have less local government revenue than they did before the recession. As populations in most rural areas continue to decline, that leaves communities wondering how they can pay for municipal services, as fewer people are contributing to the tax base. The answer, in a lot of cases, is they can't. As part of our Inquire Indiana series, Gregory Ohl of Fishers asked if there were examples of rural communities handling and adapting to change well. What were they doing that perhaps other struggling areas could model? Brock Turner reports.
Princeton, Indiana has just about everything that would make you think it's a thriving community. The city was one of the first to be connected to Interstate 69. It's been home to a Toyota manufacturing plant that employs more than 5,000 people for more than 2 decades. And it's situated not far from Evansville, one of the state's largest metropolitan areas.
If we're talking about small towns, it clearly helps to have certain assets. Are you proximate to an expressway or interstate? Are you reasonably near an urban core, let's say 45 minutes to an hour and a half away from an urban core? Do you have a university in your community? Is there an heirloom industry that remains committed to your community?
But Classic cautions those things aren't everything.
Those are things you can't actually control. You either have them or you don't for the most part. What every community can control is that notion of aspiration and collaboration. And most of the communities that I know of in Indiana that are doing well have that aspirational leadership and that collaboration.
He points to Huntingburg, Indiana, as an example. Here, there isn't a major interstate, college or university, or heirloom employer. But that's not stifling development.
And we had to look at how can we leverage what we had as strengths as a community to create this quality of place that was so necessary for Huntingburg to grow.
And it worked. The population here has grown slightly. The first new housing developments in years are taking root, and the city has invested to create trails, parks, and an outdoor space along sidewalks for local restaurants.
What you see going on right now is the first phase of construction that will take us about a year to get done, and we're well on the way to creating that plaza that we're hoping to have and still maintain a common use of the downtown the way it's always been used.
Developers, along with private businesses, have noticed the work the city is doing, and as a result, they're expanding.
And to see $30 million of additional investment from companies that are already here is really telling the tale of, yes, we're on the right track, because these businesses are saying we can stay here, we can thrive, we can invest in our local community and plan to be here and be successful because of the type of community we're building.
Spinner has tied the success of his community to the success of local businesses.
It's a two-way street because they want to support our community because they need those workers to continue to grow. And just since the Stellar process has started, just in the last 2 years, we've had our 2 major employers here in Huntingburg have both announced expansion plans. I really don't think that would have happened without this program, this advancement we've made in the last 3 to 5 years.
While the growth so far has been modest, Spinner believes more is to come. He credits the people here for embracing the changes. This city looks and feels different than it did, and people seem to be okay with that. However, back in Princeton, there hasn't been much growth. Mayor Brad Schmidt says despite having numerous assets, the community hasn't been able to succeed like he envisioned.
In order to see the change that I knew that needed to take place, we had to get rid of some individuals from the very beginning as far as department heads, because you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. And that's literally what we were trying to do, is trying to do something completely different that's not been done in Princeton for quite some time.
Those changes Schmidt talked about included incentivizing retail and restaurants to enter the downtown square and expanding the city's boundaries. He also sought to change the way parks were used and maintained in the community. Some of those changes and moves didn't sit well with residents. Schmidt lost in May's primary, and the first-term mayor will be limited to a single 4-year term. He blames that loss on the hesitancy to change and the lack of a unified vision within the community.
Not all, but a lot of rural communities are dying. They don't believe they are. They believe that they're just holding still, status quo. Well, if you're not managing your growth, you're absolutely managing your decline.
He tried to attract more retail and restaurants to the downtown square, but ran into opposition from the city council. He asked for city funds to incentivize developers to turn this building into an Italian steakhouse. It was declined.
The pushback in these rural communities that you get, the resistance to change, and a lot of it is spurred by younger individuals the older communities truly are, I believe, declining to the point to where we will have ghost towns. I mean, make no mistake about it. There will be ghost towns from the results of them not willing to accept that change is inevitable. And if we aren't willing to change with it, then we will die.
His political opponents disagree and say they're more than willing to change. They just don't care for his vision, nor do they like the way he's gone about changing the community. While Schmidt's vision for Princeton might not have stuck, he's hopeful his hometown will find its way. Schmidt isn't one to get sentimental. He looks forward to these final months in office, but admitted he hopes others will eventually see the path he's trying to lead this community down.
And maybe it's one that they're not ready for yet, but maybe that in a few years they will be.
Sounds like you don't have any regrets, though.
I don't.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Brock Turner.